Let's do this then.
Theologian John Piper said, "We are all starved for the glory of God, not self. No one goes to the Grand Canyon to increase self-esteem. Why do we go? Because there's greater healing for the soul in beholding a splendor than there is in beholding yourself." Through this speech, you can expect to hear how a trip changed how I see life, beauty in the world, and my faith. And I will tell you a story about my journey to the Grand Canyon on a hiking field trip and 3 life lessons it taught me. Living in Arizona for the past 10 years, the first time I visited the Grand Canyon was in 2017. Despite having access to one of the 7 wonders of the world, most Arizonans never visit the Grand Canyon. Whether it be a trip to a world wonder or a local hike, exploring nature's beauty has the capacity to change your life. To provide a little bit of background information, I will tell you about my experience to the Grand Canyon, which began as a hiking field trip. I've always enjoyed hiking, and living in Arizona, where summers consist of 120-degree heat, there's not much else to do with your time. So my trip began the night before as we drove 4 hours to the Grand Canyon up north from Phoenix, Arizona. We left at 2:30 in the morning to begin hiking by 3. It was 30 degrees when we began and 85 when we finished, 12 hours later. That's Arizona for you. Now, for those of you that don't know, the Grand Canyon has 3 rims, northwest and south, and we hiked the south along the south rim, which is 15 miles each way. And that brings me to my first life lesson: to enjoy life. It is through this trip that I first understood the value of experiences with people and in places. With the increased use of technology, we are constantly absorbed by our phones, even when in nature, and more focused on looking at a screen rather than our surroundings. With this being my first experience without cell service, it was the first time I really had the chance to unplug, put my phone away throughout the duration of the trip, aside from taking one picture from the entire trip. And so now, I make an effort with every hike I go on to put away my phone and actually enjoy nature, because no picture can ever capture the beauty that lies before your eyes, and so you might as well enjoy it while it lasts. Now, my second lesson: the importance of God's work. There's little beauty like that of the Grand Canyon, yet it wasn't until it was before my eyes that I truly noticed it. I want you to imagine for a moment 2,000 square feet of rock. Not very descriptive. Now, imagine again as you stand on top of a rock that lies 6,000 feet deep, and in front of you are red rocks filled with lines from centuries of erosion, capped by snow. And below you is a bunch of green trees with a bright teal river that runs through the valley. That is the Grand Canyon, and it wasn't until I stood before it that I truly realized that nature comes from God's work. Of course, we're always taught that the Spirit of God handcrafted the earth for us. However, it's a lot easy to forget in your daily life. Witnessing a natural wonder like the Grand Canyon allowed me to remind myself the importance in recognizing God's work on a daily basis. And my third lesson: mental and physical preparation is key, no matter the task. The night before, I was up until midnight, and then waking up at 2:30 in the morning left me with about 2.5 hours of sleep. As you can imagine, no amount of caffeine can prepare you for a 13-hour hike running on 2.5 hours of sleep. So when I began hiking in the morning, freezing cold and miserable due to the weather and conditions already, I had little energy, and on top of that, I was 12 hours away of ending up in the emergency room due to wearing the wrong socks. As we began the hike, my feet weren't hurting until 2 hours in, and I noticed the back of my ankles bleeding because I forgot my hiking socks at home and was left to wear plain tennis shoe socks. Now, in the middle of the Grand Canyon, with only a first aid kit, I wrapped my ankles with band-aids and gauze. However, as you're hiking 30 miles, they will fall off, and you will leave a trail of blood behind you the rest of the 10 hours on your hike. And when you're in the Grand Canyon, you're left with 2 options to get out: you're airlifted or you hike out. And so I hiked out. Ended up in the emergency room with stitches, and now have scars to prove it. However, I was made an example out of because because of lack of preparation and wearing the wrong socks. So in conclusion, no matter the task, how big or small, mental and physical preparation is key and crucial for success. Through a trip in 2017, I was given the opportunity to visit the Grand Canyon for the first time, and it taught me 3 life lessons. To recap, enjoy life, put away your phone, wake up early, go to bed late, explore nature, and it will be worth it in the end. Second, acknowledging God's work and His creation is truly a rewarding experience. Third, preparation is key if you ever want to succeed, no matter the situation. Visiting a natural wonder has the capacity to change your outlook on life too. So with that, I will repeat. We are all starved by the glory of God, not self. No one goes to the Grand Canyon to increase self-esteem. Why do we go? Because there is greater healing in the soul in beholding splendor than there is in beholding self. Thank you.